let's start the talk. I call this talk Leadership by Everyone. The goal of this talk is to explain how any one of us can become a leader within our organization. I'm not pretending to be an expert on the leadership field, but this talk is about, well, it includes my past experience, some books that I read, some training courses that I attended, and my experience in general. So the first slide, I want to talk about the personality traits of a leader. And remember, I'm not talking about a tech lead or a lead consultant or somebody that manages consultants. I'm talking about someone, any of us that can be a leader. So one of the personality traits is that we should be confident. Now, so some people say that confidence comes from experience. You also, as a leader, you should be able to challenge your teammates. For example, allow people, your coworkers, to work on difficult tasks and expect those tasks to get done. In other words, we shouldn't lower the bar. And as a leader, you should have a passion for doing things right. In other words, just as an example, we should not take shortcuts. Like, for example, say, if we're talking about a consultant, we shouldn't say, oh, this time I'm not going to create unit tests, or this time I'm not going to test this code. I'm going to assume it works. So having passion for doing things right is one of the personality traits that a leader should have. There are many others, but these are some that I want to cover. Now, as a leader, you should stay motivated even when the odds are against you. For example, if the project is behind schedule, it's a good idea to stay motivated. And yeah, you may get frustrated. That's normal. But you should choose the place and time to vent your frustrations. It's also okay to have a sense of urgency. Even if it's the beginning of the project, as a leader, you should have a sense of urgency. And the third bullet here is that communication is important when you're a leader, or if you want to become a leader in your project. You should be able to speak clearly and communicate your vision and your priorities. For example, if somebody asks you, can you get this done by tomorrow? You should try to say yes or no, instead of saying it may be difficult, but I can try. Or instead of saying I don't know, you should say yes or no, or let me look into it and I'll get back to you later today or by 2 p.m. You should speak clearly. And the leaders are leaders of change. And this goes in line with our core value, which is challenge the status quo. We should be leaders of change. If everything is going fine in your project, or if everything is going fine in your project, I'm sure there are things that you can improve in your project. I'm not talking about us consultants only. I'm talking about everyone in the organization. As a leader, and I'm talking about specifically as consultants, we should embrace learning new things. In our line of business, as consultants, we jump into very different types of projects. So it's a good idea to embrace learning new things. The second bullet, the best teams are those in which leadership comes from everybody, not only the leader. Sorry, I got distracted because there's people working outside my house. They're like building something. So let me go to the presentation. The best teams are those in which leadership comes from everybody, only the leader. Yeah. Team members should be allowed to I lost the flow of the presentation. Give me just 1 minute. The best teams are those which leadership comes from. Yeah. Team members should be allowed to lead. Not only the leader should lead. What do I mean by this? For example, let's say during the stand-up, well, for your next stand-up, your Scrum Master is not going to be able to join. You have two options. You can call off the stand-up, or you can have one of the team members lead the stand-up. So if you allow your team members, or if team members are allowed to lead, somebody will take the lead and will execute sorry, not execute, will lead the stand-up instead of canceling it because the Scrum Master is not available that day. The next bullet is that you don't have to be a boss or manager to be a leader. And this is the core of the presentation and what I'm trying to communicate. And I'm sure that many of you are already leaders in your team, even if you are not a leader. But this is a good reminder of some things that consider. Or if you want to become a leader, I hope some of the things that I'll talk about will help you. And if you need to have the confidence, for example, the means, the tools, and the ability to make decisions to become a leader in your team. And this is something that your manager should be able to give you. Again, let me tell you in a different way. Your manager should be able to, should allow you to have confidence, should give you the means, should give you the tools, and should give you the ability to make decisions so that you can become a leader. And for example, how do you make decisions? By having context of what's going on, by knowing how the different modules in the application work, by doing cross-training. So this is something that your manager can help you with. And if you are in a lead position, this goes in line with the last bullet. If you're in a lead position, you should organize your team so that it can organize itself and work independently. And this goes along with the empowering concept. The best teams are the teams that organize themselves, that don't need somebody to tell them what to do. That if they run out of tasks, they can easily find something to work, either like technical debt, or tasks in the backlog, or things that need to be improved. They just don't sit around and wait for somebody to tell them what to work on. And empowering, that's a whole different topic. But your manager, or if you are a manager, you should empowering the consultants is something that we should try to do. Yeah, the people that are working outside stopped working. I hope they last for a little while. It stays like that for a little while. Being a leader. Some other thoughts about being a leader. The leadership doesn't only flow down, right, from our executive team down to the PMs, down to the consultants, or apply to other departments like human resources, marketing, and our other departments, right? It also flows up. And some of the thoughts here come from a book called Extreme Ownership. It's written by a Navy SEAL that explains how things work in the military and how they need to support their leader and how communication flows. And it's applied to companies. One of the things that they say is that no matter how much bureaucracy in your company you find, the government has a lot more bureaucracy than your company. And another thing that it says is that a leader must support his or her manager. How do we support our manager? By giving them information, the necessary information to make decisions, by giving them the necessary information to create estimates, by giving them the information to assess risks, for example, or if there's a delay, by letting them know in advance that we are behind schedule and that there's going to be a delay. That's how we support our manager. And as leaders, we as leaders, as any one of us as leaders, we should also follow. And by follow, I mean that, for example, sometimes there might be better ideas than ours in the project, or on how to approach a task. And this goes aligned with the check your ego at the door idea. You know, check your ego at the door. I think I read that in a book from, I think it was Robert Martin, Uncle Bob. People call him Uncle Bob. It might be him. But checking your ego at the door means that you shouldn't attach your image of yourself to things like ideas. So it means that other people might have, in some situations, better ideas than you, and that means that you should also follow other ideas, or what your manager asks you to do. Sometimes there are things that we don't like working on, either documentation, creating documentation. Some of us may not like creating documentation, or some of us may not like, and I'm focusing on development, right? Because that's the area that I'm familiar with, but this also applies to project managers, to, again, other departments in our organization. So we must follow what our lead or manager asks us to do. And as leader, we should use influence. This is the fourth bullet. We should use influence, experience, knowledge, and communication to convey our ideas. And we should try to make ourselves replaceable as leaders, not as managers. Again, I'm talking as us as leaders. We should try to make ourselves replaceable from a project knowledge perspective. What do I mean by this? For example, there's a concept called the boss factor, or in a nicer way, the lottery factor. What happens if someone in the project that knows a lot about the project wins the lottery? They're going to leave, right? Or you could say if they run over by a bus. That's the boss factor, lottery factor. So we should aim to making ourselves replaceable by creating documentation and writing down everything that could be important for other consultants in our team. So this is all part of being a leader. There's one more thing that the book talks about. The book that I told you about, Extreme Ownership. It says that when you're in the military, you may not like other people in your platoon, I guess that's what they call it, in your unit. Yeah, you may not like other people in your unit. You may not get along with them, but they remind themselves that that other people that they don't like is not really the enemy. The enemy for them is the other, what's it called? The other army, right? The other army. And they in that book, they try to create an analogy to companies by saying that we inside the company, we should try to like each other and get along, because other companies are who are trying to steal business from us. So we should get along and work on our differences. And there's some catchy phrases that I had written down sometime in my notes from a race driver, and the last two, I don't know who I had written them down, but I don't remember who they're from. So if things are under control, it's possible that we're going too slow in our project. We should challenge the status quo. And the last one, being uncomfortable in uncomfortable situation. It reminded me of something that I've seen on LinkedIn that says that, for example, during meetings with clients, even if our English is not the best, we shouldn't be uncomfortable, because we're probably one step ahead by speaking two languages. So it's okay to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Or sometimes even the client challenges us and they put us on the spot by asking us difficult questions. But that's good. I mean, that's good. It's okay to be out of our comfort zone. And the comfort zone is not again, but it's a different concept, but it's a different topic, sorry. But it's okay to be outside of our comfort zone. Now, as leaders within our organization, we should be able to give feedback. And I have 3 slides about feedback because I consider this an important topic. Feedback should come from a place of caring. There's an interesting book called Radical Candor. It's written by Kim Scott. And it tells that, well, I'll talk about it in the next slide, but we should provide feedback from a place of caring. We should provide feedback because we want our co-workers to grow. And at the same time, when we give feedback, it's okay to ask for feedback as well. When I give feedback to somebody, I ask them, if you have any feedback from me, feel free to tell me at any time. And there's also the feedback sandwich, and it's the second bullet here. It's usually not a good idea to mix positive feedback with negative feedback. Like, for example, and this is called the feedback sandwich because you give positive feedback, then the negative feedback, and then positive feedback. It's kind of like a sandwich. So usually you should aim to give direct feedback about a specific situation. And this next slide is about the book that I was telling you about, Radical Candor. The author presents this slide. It has 2 axes: challenge directly or silence. And the other one is how much you care about the person. And in this case, usually what you want to do is to care and challenge. You want to challenge your coworkers, but at the same time, care about them. And this is what radical candor is. It's respectful confrontation. And let's talk about the other scenarios. Sometimes if somebody doesn't challenge, which is silence, doesn't challenge, and they are mad or angry at somebody or don't like somebody. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And they don't care about somebody. It's called manipulative insincerity. And this creates mistrust, and it doesn't allow the other person to grow. And this is when you don't care, which is I think it's silence. It's when you don't care about something, and when you don't care is rage. When you don't care and when you don't challenge, this creates this section. Now, when you for ruinous empathy, this is when you care about somebody because it's in the upper quadrant, in the upper part of the graph, the chart. It's when you care about someone, but you don't challenge. It creates ruinous empathy because you probably tell good things to somebody because you care, but you don't challenge them. Now, obnoxious aggression comes when you challenge someone, but you don't do it with empathy, with care. And this comes as very, very bad criticism. And this makes the other person defensive. This makes the other, it makes the other consultant defensive, and they don't want to change. And what you want to do, again, is to apply radical candor, which means that you challenge people, but you care about them. And this means that you need to bring your whole person to your job, because sometimes you may say that job is one thing and I want to keep my human part outside of work, but that doesn't work with radical candor. You need to care about people, about your co-workers, and this allows everyone to grow in the company. Are there any questions so far before I continue? No? Okay.
No.
Okay, cool. And just to close this topic, radical candor, it's about encouraging feedback. It's about asking people to give feedback and to receive feedback. And yeah, this is something that we get during our 360 evaluations, but Radical Candor goes beyond that. It's about giving feedback continuously so that people can grow, and challenging with care. Now, as a leader, you will be involved in conflicts. Hopefully not, but it's possible that it's going to happen. And this chart, this is a chart that comes from, it's a known chart. It's a known chart on how you deal with conflict by creating two axes. One of the importance of the relationship, and the other one is the importance of achieving the goal. And this allows you to use this tool to make a choice on how you want to handle the conflict. You may think that let's look at them. One of them is competing, collaborating, compromise. You can avoid or you can accommodate. You may think that collaboration is the best one, but actually all of them are valid and apply to different situations. For example, when you don't care about the relationship with whomever you have a problem with or a conflict, and you don't care about achieving a specific goal because you may be discussing or having a problem about how to fix a bug or an issue. But if you don't care about the goal and you don't care about the relationship, you can implement or you can avoid the conflict and the other party. Now, if you care about the relationship, if the importance of the relationship is high, but you don't care too much about achieving the goal, you can accommodate, which means that you let the other party win, right? You do what the other party wants to do because you care about the relationship. Now, when do you compete? If you care about the goal, but you don't care about the relationship, that's when you compete, which means that you do things your way, not caring what the other party wants to do. And competing may sound bad, but it's good when there's not really room for debate. When you need to get something done very quickly, and you don't have time to debate. You can also compromise, and that means that both parties give up something, and everybody wins. And collaborating means that both parties win without giving something up. And again, all ways to deal with conflict are valid depending on the importance of your relationship with the person that you have a conflict with and the importance of achieving the goal. Now, when you handle conflict as a leader, blaming somebody doesn't really help. In fact, it sometimes has the opposite effect on how people perceive yourself. So it's not a good idea to blame. Also, playing the victim doesn't help either, right? I'm sure all of us have been in situations in which we had conflict, and we may have resolved it in different ways. Keep in mind that none of these two approaches, blaming and playing the victim, help. And I attended one training course on leadership maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and the presenter told us that this like formula, right? The results are equal to our response capacity minus the environmental challenges. What does this mean? The results are equal to the actions that we can do, but they are affected by the things that we cannot control. So what this means that the more tools that we have under our belt, either interpersonal skills, listening skills, confidence, our ability to convey ideas, to speak clearly, that's our response capacity, our knowledge, that's our response capacity. The more tools that we have under our belt, the better results we have, because in our job, we want to have environmental challenges, angry clients, difficult technical tasks, sometimes conflict with co-workers. So the more tools that we have under our belt, the better results that we are going to have because of the challenges that we're going to have in our job. We're almost done, by the way. So what are some of the things that we want to avoid? For example, having a bad mood. If anyone else is a leader in our team or in our organization, the leader's mood is going to affect the rest of the team. For example, if the leader is worried about not finishing on time, the team is going to get worried. So that the leader's attitude is very important. And as leaders, we need to have a really good attitude, a positive attitude. Another thing that you want to avoid is doing things not the correct way just one time, right? It's better to hold on to your principles all the time. And if we're talking about consultants, if you say, and I think this, I gave this example in the beginning, I'm not going to write unit tests for this module, or I'm not going to test this module because it should work. It's better to, it's not a good idea to do those kind of things just one time. Why? Because you probably, or one of us may likely do those things again that are not the correct way to do things. So it's better to do things the right way all the time. Also, the third bullet, don't wait for a crisis to figure out your areas of opportunity. The real test is what you do when there's nothing to do. Most likely all of us have areas of opportunity, right? So it's a good idea that if you feel that you're in your comfort zone, you're probably in trouble. Well, not in trouble, but it's not a good idea to be in your comfort zone, as I said previously. And the last thing that we should avoid as leaders in our team is micromanaging. For example, micromanaging our coworkers. And I'm not talking about managers here. I'm talking about us as consultants. For example, micromanaging comes from a lack of trust. The intentions are good. I mean, that's because somebody cares about the outcome of something, but the method is not. Asking somebody, for example, if we're from a consultant's perspective, when doing a pull request, if I focus on too many minor details that are not important, and I ask the person that I'm reviewing to fix all those little details, that's kind of an example of micromanaging. Or for example, wanting to have too much control of something, asking somebody, are you done? When will you be done? Or excessive attention to details. All those are examples of micromanaging. And it's not, again, something that we want to do. We want to trust that our coworkers are doing things right. And another thing that we want to avoid is accepting low performance. And for this, we should work directly with the other party involved on how to improve their performance. We should expect our coworkers to be accountable. And accountability is not about blame. Accountability is just a synonym for responsibility. But we should expect people or our coworkers to be responsible. For example, being responsible when we're behind schedule, and we need to, we should do something about that. Or being, we should expect our coworkers to be trustworthy. And finally, in this case, we shouldn't treat our teammates like kids. For example, asking a senior consultant or somebody in our team, telling them how to develop code, for example. That's not a good idea. And this comes from a lack of trust. And one solution could be to expect our teammates to be accountable. Finally, this is the last slide. We should, and how to manage the flow of ideas. When we talk to our coworkers about something, it's usually because we want to generate ideas. So we should encourage copying useful ideas. And if somebody has an idea, we should refuse to let it drop until everyone understands that idea. In other words, we shouldn't push our idea. We should allow everyone to participate and promote participation. It's also a good idea to resist time pressure. For example, if we are close to ending a meeting, we shouldn't pressure. We should resist the pressure to call off that meeting and wait for everybody to share their ideas. And finally, if somebody is participating and that person doesn't participate often, we should withhold our criticism because we want to encourage people to participate. And why is that? Because everyone can come up with good ideas. Are there any questions? I think that's all I had. Yeah, this is the last slide. Are there any questions about what I talked about how what it is like to, sorry, how we all can be leaders in our team?
Hi, Rodolfo, this is Rafael. I just one comment and a question. Comment is, remember some time ago when you recommend me a book? I don't remember the title on English, but it is in Spanish, El líder que no tenía cargo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and my question is, can you suggest us or share with us some ideas about what can we do to promote accountability in the team? Maybe accountability is something easy to learn, but for me it's a little bit difficult to find alternatives of how can I help us other people to learn accountability.
It depends on the situation. For example, if it's about ending on time or sticking to your estimates, like for example, how do you make people accountable for an estimate? You should include them in the estimate. For example, let's say that you tell another developer, you assign, let's say that you're executing a project, Rafael, and you tell a developer, you need to finish this task in 10 hours. That doesn't create accountability because accountability is not something that you assign to people or something that you ask people to generate. Accountability is something that comes from the person. So instead of asking someone to finish a task in 10 hours, it's better to ask someone to estimate the task. And if they tell you this is going to take 10 hours, in that case, you can hold them accountable for the estimate that they say, because if you just tell them right how long something is going to take, they don't feel accountable for ending on time. Why? Because they didn't come up with the estimate. The estimate is something that somebody else told them to do, and it might have been incorrect. So for finishing on time, that would be one thing. For what else could it be? Like what other scenario do you have in mind?
For example, when I want to show everybody what I'm doing on or what I'm getting done, you know, like this, how can I help my team members to be focused on showing what they achieve, things like that.
Okay, you mean like during meetings?
When we end some task and we want to show the results of we are having.
Actually, if it's okay, I'll stop recording and let's switch to Spanish. Hold on. Stop recording.